Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. In fact, we have a show full with a whole lot of material today that we need to cover. Please do remember that this also is a call-in show, and right there on the screen you see the number is 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. So let's get started because, like I said, quite a few topics that we want to discuss today. Title of the show today, Oxfam, you know that organization, international organization, flawed and sexist capitalist system impoverishing billions. Now, I changed the title to make it more dramatic, of course, but that is pretty much what they're saying. Flawed and sexist capitalist system impoverishing billions. And when we say billions, we're not just saying billions for the sake of it. We're talking about that is the effect of what we're seeing. Subtitle, The World Economy. The world economy is broken, and it is our economic system that is wreaking havoc that has now reached our American shores. And I'll tell you what, Americans sit down here and we've seen things occurring across the world and we just think we are insulated from it. Well, in an extractive system, guess what happens? It comes right back to you. And what the American folks in the Midwest are seeing, what they're seeing in Appalachia, what they're seeing elsewhere, that is the results of the economic system. Make no mistake about it. Have no one fool you. Oxfam is on point. Anyhow, America is finally seeing the results of an economic system that by design must be an extractive model that evolves into indentured servitude for most. Indentured servitude for most. That is where we must evolve to. We will be evolving to indentured servitude. I'm going to just give you the quick mathematical formula. Is if the wealthy the top 10% are growing on an average of 6, 7, 8% per year, and you are growing at 1.2% or 2%. What that means by definition is it's one pie, folks, and as they're growing at a larger rate than you are, they continuously, it's a mathematical certainty, it's certitude that they are growing to take what's yours. And what that means eventually is all you are left with is indentured servitude to them, to the few. Anyhow, we go over the latest Oxfam report titled Time to Care, Unpaid and Underpaid Care Work and the Global Inequality Crisis via the analysis by Common Dreams. And here's their subtitle. Our broken economies are lining the pockets of billionaires and big business and the expense of ordinary men and women. No wonder people are starting to question whether billionaires should even exist. Nobody, not Bill Gates, not Oprah Winfrey, nobody has earned $1 billion. And that's no question. We could go over the math to understand exactly what's going on, but nobody has earned $1 billion. All that money that you see them have is your excess labor. That is what they decided not to pay you. But to start, funny, we have a funny, interesting thing, right? And folks, stick with us and if you want to give us a call, 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. Of course, you can go to our chat rooms under at our website, not our website, but our Facebook page, which is at Politics Done Right. Just look up Politics Done Right and you get to our page. If you're on YouTube, just go ahead and go to youtube.com/Egberto Willis, or just go ahead and click on our politicsdoneright.com and you can get to anywhere, whether you want to watch us on Facebook or you want to watch us on YouTube or whatever, you have your choice. Anyhow, funny. We're going to get to the main subject, but we need to cover a few things first. Funny that Biden is now complaining that, oh my God, and this is Biden, oh my God. He warns against everybody using the media, Trump's disinformation against him. Biden is complaining that folks are using misinformation by Trump against him. Well, you know what's going on, right? Biden's son got a cushy job making over $50,000 per month, over $50,000 a month to be on the board of directors on a Ukrainian company. And of course, the truth of the matter is, he didn't deserve that money. He used his father's name to get it. But Biden doesn't want that coming up. You know, we hit Donald Trump very hard about the nepotism between Donald Trump and his kids. That is an aberration. But let's be honest. If we are going to put up a candidate against Donald Trump, are we really going to put up a candidate where nepotism rears its head? Oh, we have the plutocracy saying, oh, but Biden's son didn't do anything wrong. Oh, but Biden's son is fine, and we did all the investigation about it. The fact is, Biden's son was making over $50,000 a month for something he was summarily unqualified for. Okay? So let's not mix punches here. People, they can try to bring Biden along as a Democrat and try to make Biden palatable. But as we go through what Biden has been through over the years and find out that, oh my God, you mean he has the same issues, maybe not to the same degree as Donald Trump? Anyhow, Biden says, the article says, as I'm scrolling here, a day before the opening of the presidential Trump Senate impeachment trial, former Vice President Joe Biden's campaign is issuing a preemptive strike, sending an unusual open memo to the media, warning against disinformation pushed by the president of his defenders. Wait a minute. Let's stop. Let's stop. Biden wants you to stop putting out that information that says his son may be the victim of nepotism. But what about when Biden says that if you support Medicare for all, 140-something people are going to lose their insurance. If you have Medicare for all, it's going to cost more money. Those are Republican talking points, and they are lies. 148 million people are going to lose may lose private insurance in lieu of Medicare for all, which is going to give them access to the same doctors, more medicine than their employers are giving them. You know why? Because that employer can change that plan at any time. So the person that is lying to you with Republican talking points is Brother Biden. But now Biden is concerned. Biden is now concerned that somehow you may use Republican talking points, Trump talking points against him and his son. Here's the deal. Please, my brothers and my sisters, use it. Please use it. Alice Dove, how are you doing today? Welcome to Politics Done Right. Who do I support? I'll talk to you about who I support a little bit later on. But right now I don't want to particularly go into that. But so folks, here's the deal. Biden is asking all of you folks to not talk about his son getting a cushy job that he likely is not quite qualified for, okay? That's what he wants to tell you guys. But here's the deal. I want you to forget all about that. This, as I wrote this morning on Facebook, this is not a coronation. The Democratic contest, the Democratic primary is not a coronation. It's not something where we are going to sit back and coronate El Señor Biden, okay? What it is a contest where we are going to go out there and find who is the best representative of the Democratic Party. That's what we're searching for. We are not going to be giving anybody any passes. So, to close this particular topic, here's the close of the topic. Biden wants the people, for those of you just coming in, and I just saw a whole bunch just come in, those people who want you to forget about Biden's son getting $50,000 a month, don't. And the reason why you cannot is not about Democrat against Democrat. It's about what Donald Trump is going to do to him when if he were to become the nominee. All these things become exactly what you're hearing from me right now. They're going to use it and they're going to say Biden's son was making $50,000 for a corporation, being on the board of a corporation he was not qualified for. And when they try to bring up Donald Trump's kids. They're going to say, well, Donald Trump kids own the damn corporation. So they own the corporation. So I mean, do not misunderstand what's going on here. So that was deservedly so. Okay, let me go ahead and go to the second topic. This is also important. The New York Times calculated attack on progressives, with them endorsing Klobuchar and Warren. Okay, people say, oh, but Egberto, you like Warren, don't you? Yes, I like Warren. I mean, if Warren becomes the nominee, I wouldn't mind at all voting for Warren. But Klobuchar, centrist. How can the New York Times decide that, by the way, guys, we are going to have two choices. They're going to be a centrist or a progressive, right? That's what they want to do now. It's going to be a centrist or a progressive. How the hell do you come to that kind of a recommendation, right? And they try to cloak it in, oh, well, the way we're doing this is because the country has two directions that the Democrats are going to take us in. Either the progressive direction or the more. And what that was the New York Times knowing that in order to pick a centrist, they know Biden is out. People just, you ever heard the term dead men walking? That's Biden, okay? When you hear the term dead men walking, that's Biden. It was clear in the last debate that Biden will not be able to stand up to anybody vis-a-vis Trump in this election. Biden he just does not have it. Anybody continuing to fool themselves about that deserve exactly what we would get if we decided to do that. But Biden has proven in all the debates thus far that he's incompetent in the debate standard. He's also proven that mentally speaking, and we don't want to be ageist or anything here, but mentally speaking, he just doesn't have the pizzazz right now. Bernie Sanders, who I think is a bit older, is able to handle the questions, is able to come back with fast retorts. He just doesn't have it. It's time for us to get to the point and understand that he will not be the nominee at all. But anyhow, what is the New York Times trying to do? The New York Times is instituting an attack. If you see how the New York Times went ahead and interrogated Warren, they wanted to put into the ethos that, well, the Senate is going to be still controlled by Mitch McConnell. And if the Senate is going to be controlled by Mitch McConnell, you are not going to be able to get through any of the policies that you're attempting to get through. Fallacy, fallacy, fallacy. First of all, I am not convinced that the Senate will be controlled by Mitch McConnell, because remember what I've told you guys several times already. Assuming the Democrats don't screw things up. We are very good at screwing things up, but assuming we don't screw things up, this will be a landslide election. Don't look at the polls now at all. Do not. Donald Trump is juicing the economy. Donald Trump is doing a whole lot of stuff behind the scene. When we talk about, when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez spoke about modern monetary theory, MMT, they laughed at her, right? They laughed at her. Modern monetary theory is just a matter of like you're printing money, and that is going to cause inflation, and that is, you can't afford these things. I've had guests, a few PhDs on here, discussing modern monetary theory. But if you want to know the real truth of the matter, America has been instituting modern monetary theory for some time. It just wasn't for the average American citizen. It was for businesses. So what is Donald Trump doing right now? Right now, Donald Trump is using modern monetary theory by juicing, having the Feds juice the economy. There's this stuff called the secondary, not the secondary market, but the repo market. And I'm going to be quick with this, but because we got to move on. But the repo market says this. Whenever banks are closing the end of the day, banks are required to have their books balanced. And to balance their book, if they loan X amount of dollars out, they have to show that what's on the other side of the ledger. They may not have that money in the bank. So what they do is they go to the repo markets, which is they borrow from other banks to cover the amount of money that they're down. This is usually done at the Fed rates, 1 point something percent. Well, that jumped to like 10% a few months ago, and every week, in order to prevent that, that just means that the economy is in trouble. We don't see that yet, but that means the economy is in trouble. What they've been doing on the repo market, of course, is the government has started throwing billions of dollars every week. I didn't say every month, every week. They've been throwing, and I've written about that before as well. They've thrown billions of dollars every week into the repo market to keep those rates down so the banks don't collapse. That's what they're doing right now. So that is nothing more than modern monetary theory, because the money ain't there and the government is throwing it into the system. It's creating, it's inflating. And guess what we don't have? We still don't have inflation. You can only have inflation if there are more people chasing resources that are scarce. And all we generally have are scarce or false scarcities. In other words, whenever we have a scarcity of housing, it's because somebody is buying up a lot of houses, holding on to it to raise the price. When we have a scarcity of oil, it's because the cartels are holding back the oil to ensure the price is higher. And that is what we have in this capitalist society. And that's going to jump right into the things that we talk about when we talk about this inequality in the other subject. So anyhow, let's not be fooled as to what's going on here. The New York Times would love to see a Klobuchar as president because it maintains the status quo, which means modern monetary theory, not for the average American citizen, but socialism for corporations and capitalism for the average American citizen, zapping everything that you are worth. You have to understand those things. Now we're going to go into the section that how can these blurry things occur? I did a blog post a couple of days ago with an ignorant Trump supporter, and I want to play that first of all. And the reason I want to play that is because the next video I'm going to show with the GOP hack, a lot of people say, how can these people be so stupid? I do not call them stupid. I call them misinformed. And we play a part, and not we, but the media plays a part in misinforming, which is one of the reasons I always tell you guys, we need to support progressive media, progressive independent media that's not dependent on the plutocracy for its funding. So I want to play this for you, and then we'll move on the other side. So let me go ahead and do that, and let's see. Here we go. Get rid of this click, and there you go. I genuinely do not hate the Trump voter. I genuinely want what's best for all Americans. A lot of people made a lot of fun of what I'm going to show you right now. But what it does to me is it pains me because I feel so sorry for people that feel so disenfranchised that they will jump on anything that gives them that air of superiority to lift themselves out of the dump that they're actually in. Let's check this out.
What is something that you believe the president has done well?
What I'm going to show you right now. But what it does to me,
I'm not really sure. I just support him.
I've always spoken about empty vessels needing to be filled. Those are empty vessels that we haven't filled for decades. And I know what a lot of folks are going to say. It's useless. They don't listen. And in fact, there is a good friend of mine that followed 10 Trumpists and he could never get through to them because in as much as he found that they believed everything that he believed in, that they were easily convinced that the memes and all the false theories that they're putting out is true. One of the reasons why is they have completely lost trust in the other side. Do you really think we're going to really make a difference unless we bring something in that is transformational, that just doesn't look like the 50% plus one? Folks, we can't repeat again. Okay, the issue behind that is that guy was completely ill-informed. But how did he get that way? You know, how did he get so ill-informed? It wasn't something on his own. And I'm going to show you a little bit because I want you to listen to this next story because this next story is probative of as far as how they actually do it. Here we go. Today on Meet the Press, a GOP hack, Hugh Hewitt, came on and he used the technique to try to dismiss an accurate assessment of the illegalities of this president. He dismissed it in a manner that for many of the watchers or many of the listeners, they'd listen to it and just think that what the president is doing is okay. I want to play it and then we'll take it on the other side.
Do you think, Carol and Phil, that the president would be here if his first or second teams were still around him in the West Wing?
What we found in our reporting is that the guardrails are gone. The trajectory of this presidency is escalating towards a presidency of one. More chaos, less discipline and decision making. The people who tried to hem him in, they're out. He drove them out of the room, and he has mostly a lot of people around him who view themselves and their mission as telling him yes.
Is there anybody left? Not a single person left that tries to restrain?
You know, the people in power left, like Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State, Mick Mulvaney, the acting chief of staff, they see their job as trying to get the president to a yes, of executing what he wants done in a way that they can defend publicly and in a way that is somewhat legal, but they're not trying to challenge him. They're trying to execute his orders and placate his conspiracies to some degree.
I have to disagree. You had Robert O'Brien on last week, Secretary Pompeo the week before. These are strong individuals who will tell the president no when they think he is doing something wrong. I completely reject the idea that Team 3, which this is somehow less able to tell the president hard facts. In fact, I think Team 3 is the best team he's had.
But Hugh, what about the part where Mick Mulvaney agrees to withhold the aid, which turns out to be against the law, the aid to Ukraine?
I don't know that it is against the law. I don't believe that to be the case. I don't think they made that case in the House
Well, the
Manager's
Government
brief.
Accountability believes that it was
The
against the
GAO
law.
does. It's an arm of Congress, but I do not believe that has been shown in the manager's brief.
Congress is part of the government, too. I mean, they're allowed to make laws as well. All right.
What Hewitt did is he dismissed the GAO, which is an agency, a neutral agency that for some times have been taken as the standard as far as what's legal, what's not, whether the law is being followed or not on particular issues. And as it turns out, he dismisses it. Chuck Todd came back and said, of course, Congress makes laws. In effect, the executive is supposed to execute the laws Congress makes. Chuck Todd did the right thing. But what I had hoped for is that people push back immediately, stating, hey, the president should simply be following the rules effected by Congress. Punto final. Not giving them a chance to say, well, we don't even know if we need to listen to the GAO. We don't even know if that really matters. Yes, we do know. If the GAO said it's illegal, it's illegal. Okay, now here's the deal, and I think I better answer somebody. John Crane on our Facebook page. He says, BS. Capitalism has created a standard of living in U.S. higher than other nations. I love that you said that, because that is a perfect statement, John Crane, of exactly what happened. Okay? If you take a look at what my statement is today in what the show is going to be about, I also said, America, I want you to, the subtitle of the show today said the following because it's going to address you. America is finally seeing the results of an economic system that by design must be an extractive model that evolves into indentured servitude for most. But it said, the world economy is broken and it is our economic system that is wreaking havoc and that has now reached our shores. So you are so right, John Crane. BS that capitalism, or rather it's not BS though, capitalism has created a standard of living in the U.S. higher than any other nations. But you said you have a small mistake there. At the expense of the prosperity of other nations. Capitalism has created a standard of living in the United States greater than that of any other nation because it was at the expense of other nations. And it has come home to roost because as you have extracted, as we have extracted from every other country in the world, oil in the Middle East, bauxite in Jamaica, copper in Panama, bananas around the world, as we have extracted your raw resources to improve to add value to those things and sell it right back to them, that's a negative cash flow on every country that we're talking about. The Western countries, of course, have solid interactions among each other, and they have done better. But eventually, when you have exhausted the rest of people, and we're going to talk about that as we go along, but when you've exhausted the rest of people, guess who they have to come and eat? They have to come and eat you. And they have. So, sir, understand the economics and don't be screwed by a system of propaganda that lies to you into you continuing into a degeneracy downward. Continuing with the show, I want to say that what I just showed you with Howard Hewitt, yes, Mary Frost Swede. Why does anyone even listen to Hugh Hewitt? Because he represents the voice of the conservatives and Donald Trump. And the reason I showed that particular piece was you saw that ignorant person that I showed before, the misinformed Trump supporter that when asked, what has he done? The guy said, all he knows is Donald Trump says, we are the greatest. We made America great again. You ask that young man, what has made his life great again? That young man could not answer to you. By the way, if anybody wants to give us a call, you can always call us at the number you see on the screen, which is 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. If anybody wants to discuss this stuff about, capitalism is great, great, we can talk about that because I want, some of your questions are absolutely the best. All right. Now, we look at Hugh Hewitt, Mary Frost, and what happens is the following. Yes, it is true that why do we listen to him? But, we can also say that with the mainstream media. I want you to listen to Chuck Todd here. A lot of people didn't catch it when he did it on Meet the Press. Okay? Because remember, the misinformation is not only on the right-hand side. The misinformation has to be on the left-hand side as well, because in order for us to continue to support the voting against our own interest, what we have to do is we have to convince people to not want the things that we know we all want. And the only way to do that is to make believe that what we're talking about is crap. And to make believe what we're talking about is crap, we have to convince ourselves that the only way to do it is the way we are currently doing it. And that is what we have to dispel. So check this one out, and I'll explain the danger in this one on the other side. Narratives are built in very subtle ways. Those are the ones that are the most effective. And what Chuck Todd did here is important for people to see. First of all, I'm going to play it, and then we'll take it on the other side. Check this out.
So this is also about the progressive being divided on the left, which is a gift potentially to Joe Biden. And the Sanders campaign worried about it, even floating through their favorite publication, The Intercept, the idea that, they've researched that Elizabeth Warren could be both Treasury Secretary and Vice President. And you're like, that seems a bit ham-handed.
Yeah, both the Warren campaign and the Sanders campaign have a similar base of these progressive voters, and if united, could win the nomination. And this division we're seeing right now is so dangerous to both of them, because if Bernie Sanders takes off in Iowa, which the polling there seems to suggest may be happening on the ground, how's he going to win over those Warren supporters if they're in this feud right now?
There are two narratives here. The first narrative is somehow the Intercept is to be considered the outlet for the progressives. It's not necessarily real news. It's their preferred news media. It's their preferred outlet. It's the progressives' preferred outlet. That's the narrative they want to put on the Intercept, so that when the Intercept comes out with news that doesn't go with the mainstream media, that somehow we have in the back of our heads, that outlet is just for those progressives. That's number one. Number two, the issue that because Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren are both progressives, that somehow, since they may have the same piece, they're in more danger than the moderates. The moderates have Biden, and the moderates have Klobuchar fighting for the same space. That's 3 in one space, 2 in our space, 2 in the progressive space. Again, it's all about narrative, and what they're trying to do is create a narrative to confuse you. Okay, folks, Narratives are built in very subtle ways. Those are the ones that are the most effective. And what Chuck Todd did here, well, of course, my clicker didn't work, but we're back. Here's the deal. Let me tell you. So what Chuck Todd was doing there was very important, okay? What Chuck Todd wanted to do there is to ensure that what's going on is, in effect, I want to make sure that that group, those people who listen to that particular, The Intercept, which actually gives good news. It gives unbiased news. A lot of people would say, oh, it's progressive. It's not that it's progressive. It's that it gives real news for the needs and wants of people. And the needs and wants of people are generally a progressive issue. Now, what he needs to do, what he wants to do, what he's attempting to do is to say, hey, guys, that is Bernie Sanders' channel. And look at what they're doing in Bernie Sanders' channel. So, in effect, he's trying to take away some respectability, some credibility away from that issue. That is what he's trying to do. And that should not ever work. So what I did when I heard that, right, I went ahead and said to myself, oh, my God, a lot of people are just going to hear that, but they're not going to instantiate what it really means, but it's going to form a part of their psyche. Because in as much as they didn't specifically pick up on that, that wasn't what the issue was about. They started talking about, the guy's unhinged, etc. What he's trying to do there is very specific to make it seem as if that particular publication is not worth it. I've got a call. Let me go ahead and take that call. And then I'm going to only be able to stay on that call for a short time because we have a lot to cover. But 973, you are hot. Come on in, 973.
Berto, how are you today?
Oh, this sounds like Senor Johnny. Talk to me, Johnny.
Oh, man, on the eve of the end of the United States of America. You know, Berto, if the Senate acquits Trump, they will basically have destroyed the Constitution.
Of course.
There will be no oversight, no Article 1, I believe, and no constitutional separation of power. It'll be a monarchy.
Well, the thing about
and that's why
that is what's going to happen. Of course, Trump will get off after these 2 or 3 weeks go by. This impeachment will be over, and Trump would have won. The only thing to solve this problem is in November for progressives to have a blowout. Okay, and Mike,
I don't think this can happen like that, Berto, because if they do, the precedent that it sets, I mean, imagine in the future trying to get information from a president that says you can't even investigate me.
Well, again, the
precedent that this sets.
It would have been clear why he got off, okay? And he got off because we've turned the impeachment process into a partisanship thing, all right? So you are correct that any president going forward will have just about absolute power until he doesn't. And what I mean by that is eventually, the president is one person, the presidency is an institution, right? And right now, it is the president with a piece of the presidency that is going to be that monarchy that you are talking about, all right? We haven't yet made the poll. Now, if he wins a second term and everybody becomes his stooge, I'll give you all of it.
Well, I don't think it's going to go that far. I actually think the Republicans are going to pull the rug out from underneath him. I think they're just setting him up. It just seems very, very odd to me. They're not even challenging whether or not he broke the law, because it seems to be undisputed. And in my mind, I'm thinking that they're just kind of placating him for now so that they can kind of get this thing rammed up and then pull the rug out right from under him. Because
I don't doubt that, I don't know that they'll plug the rug out of him this term. In other words, I think right now,
why not? There's nothing that they gain by keeping Trump. If you get rid of him, you can at least install Pence and keep the wolves at bay.
No,
as it stands right now,
Pence is now
agreed.
In trouble. So I don't.
Agreed. They're all in trouble, and well, the thing is, they're all in trouble. And what I'm saying is that I just don't see out of Republicans. I mean, imagine the first Republican that comes out, pulls the rug out from underneath Trump and saves the party will go down as a hero.
Yeah, well,
it might be Romney.
Guess what, Johnny? The good thing about this is both you and I are speculating, which we both do very well.
Yeah, I guess we're going to see, right? Yeah.
We'll see. But hey, I got to continue on. Is there something quick you want
Thank
to
you, my
tell me
brother.
before I continue on with the program, sir?
No, that's all good. It's all good. Welcome to the impeachment. We'll see. We'll see what happens now. Take care.
Thank you, brother. Have a good one. Okay.
Peace.
Continuing now, folks. I have one more video that I want to show you. This one is, first of all, the first three videos, the idea was to show the lines between how misinformation gets out there, how it gets into the psyche, how it devolves into the ignorance of people, both on the left and the right. But now I want to show you another video. And this occurred last night on TV. Here in Texas on KHOU. Let me just go ahead and play the video because it's best that I do that because I was simply excited that this occurred. So here you go, and we'll take it on the other side. Last night, I'm walking upstairs to go to the studio past the TV and saw that they were going to discuss whether Donald Trump is telling the truth when he talks about whether he is going to save pre-existing conditions. I said, oh, we're here in Texas. And if they didn't really speak out Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act, you know they're not going to come out and say, oh, Trump is lying to the American people. But I sat back and I listened to it. And to my very surprise, it was quite accurate. Check this out.
He wants to deny you access to coverage.
That from an ad Mike Bloomberg's campaign published Friday. And here's the tweets President Trump sent Monday morning in response. He calls the ad false advertising and says, quote, I was the person who saved pre-existing conditions in your health care. So what's the reality? Is the president undermining protections for pre-existing conditions, or is he the one protecting them? Our sources are the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, U.S. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, and the Affordable Care Act, often called Obamacare. First, it's important to identify what part of the law actually prevents insurance companies from discriminating based on pre-existing conditions. That's Subtitle C, Part 1 of the Affordable Care Act, titled Prohibition of Pre-Existing Condition Exclusions or Other Discriminations Based on Health Status. This was passed in 2010, took effect in 2014. Put simply, it's part of Obamacare. It took effect under President Obama's administration. President Trump had no role in the creation or passing of the Affordable Care Act, which allows those with pre-existing conditions to get coverage. And while President Trump has consistently said he wants to keep protections for pre-existing conditions, he's also consistently said he wants to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act. That's the distinction here. Since these protections have been in effect since Obama was president, Trump would only have to save them if his administration and fellow Republicans followed through on their promise to overturn Obamacare. And President Trump and Republicans do say they have a plan to do both. They'll keep protections for pre-existing conditions and repeal Obamacare, but they haven't tried to make that law yet, and they haven't actually said how it would work. That means looking at claims right now, we can verify that Trump's claim is false. He didn't save pre-existing conditions as he claimed. In fact, his administration and party are working to have them removed right now by trying to overturn the law.
I found it very warming. I found it very rewarding that, first of all, they actually gave President Obama kudos for taking care of those with pre-existing conditions. But secondly, not only did they call Donald Trump implicitly a liar, they called the GOP liars for saying they are going to do something that they have yet and never done. Now, here in Texas and many other red states, these guys decided not to take the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care process has instituted the voluntary killing of many of their citizens. A lot of these stations around the country have refused to express it in these terms, which I think fools many of the Republicans in these states to believe that somehow their government, somehow their local government is taking care of them, and by not going into the Affordable Care Act, it's doing a good thing, as opposed to exactly what it's doing, inflicting death, illnesses, and more sickness on the people of those states who did not accept the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act, and also now to those who are currently against Medicare for all. Okay, I hope you get that. Red state, Texas, supposed to be ruby red. It's not really, of course, but that the institutions like a news station came out and pointed out and fact-checked the president, the Republican president that was just in Austin at the time that was playing, that they came out and said he is lying. he is lying, and not only is he lying, but the GOP is lying. That is an improvement, and I think for a change, the local media did some good, if it's just a little bit. Welcome, Rose Williams. Welcome aboard. But let me make sure and tell you guys all hi. Alice Dove, welcome aboard. John Crane, welcome aboard. Mary Frost Sweet, welcome aboard. Rose Williams, welcome aboard. And whoever I am missing, forgive me. Those on YouTube or whatever. And folks, if you're on YouTube, don't forget, you can hit that $ and super chat, because that is how we maintain progressive media. Before I go to the blog of the week, which is going to be the subject at hand, let me let you know that we have a new t-shirt out, folks. And here you go. It's called The Unprecedented President. And by the way, you know where you can get that? You can pull that out at store.politicsdoneright.com. Store.politicsdoneright.com. Don't forget to get the new t-shirt. And of course, you still have the t-shirt that we have out there all the time, which is I support independent media. Folks, if you're joining us right now, please remember to share these programs. Independent media requires you to be a participant in the media. We need you to share wildly, not only when you're watching this live, but we get several thousand views after the show goes live. We need you to share all over the country in your domain. Share them under your sites everywhere, because that is how we make a difference. We need you to share, and we also need you to support. So go to store.politicsdoneright.com, store.politicsdoneright.com. We have the I Support Independent Media with our logo on. We also have the other t-shirt that is Unprecedented President. We have him with the ball chain tied to his feet and his hands in handcuffs. Oh, that is kind of funny. And who is that for? Of course, that is for our impeached president. Our impeached president. Folks, also do remember that if you want to support the show, we're going to go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright.com. I'm putting that in the feed right now. Patreon.com/politicsdoneright. That is how you can become a member, a subscriber of the show. You can also go ahead and join our equipment fund by going to the GoFundMe.com/independent-media-upgrade. That is GoFundMe.com/independent-media-upgrade. And as well, you can contribute via PayPal.me/politicsdoneright. That is PayPal.me/politicsdoneright. And of course, go to the store and purchase at store.politicsdoneright.com. Okay, we're done with that. Now it is time for us to go ahead and get busy with Do You Know? Let's go again. Do you know what time it is? It's time for the weekly blog post. Okay, folks, the title of the blog post, it's not one that I wrote. It's not the one that I wrote, because this one from Common Dreams, there was no reason for me to regurgitate this, because this was solid on its own. Title of that is Blaming Flawed and Sexist Capitalist System. Oxfam report finds 2,153 billionaires wealthier than 4.6 billion of world's poorest. I only have 15 minutes, and again, the number to call is 646-716-5812. Again, that is 646-716-5812. I have it on the screen, so I'm going to just read portions of it, and you can see it on the screen, and later on, the URL you can see on the top of the screen how to get to commondreams.com, which has it. I love Common Dreams, independent media as well. They just do print. Politics Done Right does print media. We also do online media. We also do the live shows and on air at KPFT 90.1 FM in Houston. In fact, tomorrow we'll have the show at KPFT 90.1 in Houston. And you know what? Guess what? I'm going to have my mom sitting down next to me. So you get a chance to see who created this dude here. So anyhow, let's get busy. Economic equality is out of control. That is the opening of the time to care underpaid care work and the global inequality crisis. A report that Oxfam International published on Monday ahead of the annual Economic Forum Summit in Davos, Switzerland. You know, Davos is where all the rich plutocrats get together and they decide, these capitalists decide who they will screw next. And people don't like when I speak like that, but it's the truth. It's the truth because the system is an extractive system that only benefits a few. How do I know it benefits a few? How do I get away with saying that it benefits a few? Because look at the results. 2,153 billionaires are worth more than 4.6 billion people. And you know what? The top 1%, they are worth more than 6.7 billion people. Anyhow, continuing. In 2019, the world's billionaires, only 2,153 people had more wealth than 4.6 billion people, the report says. The Great Divide is based on a flawed and sexist economic system, says the report. The report details how the world's existing economic system serves the richest among us while undervaluing work such as caregiving, which is disproportionately performed by females, and emphasizes the need for global government to pursue bold actions, address inequality, and much more. The gap between rich and poor can't be resolved without deliberate inequality-busting policies, and too few governments are committed to these. Oxfam India CEO Amitabh Behar, who is in Davos this week, said in a statement, and what I try to tell folks is this: that is the reason why the New York Times came out with that Amy Klobuchar versus Elizabeth Warren. False choices, right? The idea is blow up that what Elizabeth Warren is talking about is a pipe dream, and therefore you have to settle for Amy Klobuchar. Amy Klobuchar, status quo, Davos person. She will be there promoting the capitalist ideals of Davos, which says the people in Appalachia, the people in the Midwest, the people that don't have any jobs, you ain't getting any. But they give you the hope that somehow this system is going to do it for you. Continuing. Our broken economies are lining the pockets of billionaires and big business at the expense of ordinary men and women, BR said. No wonder people are starting to question whether billionaires should even exist. Billionaires should not exist because, remember, if somebody sits at their pool, if somebody sits in an office and writes a few pieces of paper, and we have the person building things, the engineer engineering things, the doctor doctoring, the teacher teaching. These are the people that are producing things in society. The capitalist stays in an ivory tower downtown, and he figures out how to make more money by making his minions. And some of his minions are paid well. They guardians of the gate, they're paid well. But the others are just making minions, right? And here's the deal. So that excess amount of monies that they have, that is what they decided not to pay you. And we have been indoctrinated into believing that that is right. We have been indoctrinated, folks. If you're listening to me now, please share. If we have been indoctrinated into believing that somehow that is moral. It is morally corrupt. It is legalized theft. And until we start using those words, until we start telling it as it is, as we stop trying to believe what they've taught us from the time we went to middle school or sometimes elementary school, that this is how things must be. That is the fight of our life. That is what we are up against and what we must fight. Okay? So let's remember that. Continuing with the piece. Among the new report findings, we also have the combined wealth of the world's 22 richest men. Here's what I'm saying. Listen to this. 22 of the richest men in the world have more wealth than all women in Africa. That is the kind of system that we have. And people may want to make excuses for these guys, but these guys don't make excuses when they're ripping you off. They don't make excuses when they tell you that now they're no longer going to make the Toyota Tundra or one of those cars in the United States. They're sending it off to Mexico to be made. Isn't this the Trump era where we bring all this manufacturing into America? Our manufacturing base has been decimated. And you know why? Because our economic system is extractive. And we go to wherever labor is cheapest. And you are just a cog in the wheel. It's no longer about national boundaries. If I can get it cheaper made in China, I get it in China. All this fight that you see Trump talk about, oh, he's going to get China to do these things. It's a joke. They sit down and they drink tea and they laugh at you all. While they're claiming to work for you, they're working to enrich a few, not you. They're not trying to get jobs for you. They just want to keep you hanging on a thread long enough to vote for them so they can continue to extract from you. And until you realize that none of these guys, whether left or right, care about you. When I say left or right, I'm not talking about the far left or the far right. I'm talking about the base of these two parties. They don't care about you at all. You are a cog to enrich a few. The report explains this broken economic model has accumulated vast wealth and power in the hands of a rich, in part by exploiting the labor of women and girls and systematically violating their rights. As BR put, women and girls are among those who benefit least from today's economic system. They spend billions of hours cooking, cleaning, and caring for children and the elderly. Unpaid care work is the hidden engine that keeps the wheels of the economy's business and societies moving. It is driven by women who often have little time to get an education, earn a decent living, or have a say in how our societies are run, and who are therefore trapped at the bottom of the economy. That is why the people in Appalachia can't get. Folks, please remember to share these programs. That is why the people in my brothers and sisters in Appalachia, they will never move ahead unless they elect somebody like a Warren or a Sanders. They will never move ahead in the ghettos, in the barrios, in Appalachia or any one of these places unless they elect somebody who is looking at transformational change. But not only that person cannot do it by themselves. They require you to bring their help with them. That means reinventing the Senate. That means reinventing the House. That means not, and when I say the Senate and the House, I'm not just talking about in Washington, D.C. I'm talking about the Texas Senate, the Texas House, the Wisconsin Senate, the Wisconsin House, the Arkansas Senate, the Arkansas House, the Connecticut Senate, the Connecticut House. All of these have to be in control, not of a bunch of centrists, not of a bunch of moderates. We finally need progressives who understand real economics, who understand how a financial system really works and how it is rigged by design to ensure we have a working class that is just that evolves into indentured servitude. When we really understand those concepts, is when we can make a difference. But right now we have a mainstream media that is lying to you. They're telling you, oh, we can't do those things. Those things are unaffordable. They're asking you to deny math. How can it be possible? How can it be possible, folks? And this is what a lot of people don't understand. That if you have a lot of expenses like advertising costs and all these things, paying executive shareholders, in the private insurance system, and you have one entity paying a bill in Medicare for all, how can that other one be less expensive? They are looking you straight in the eye. When Biden tells you it costs more, he's looking you in the eye and saying, my dear voter, that whose vote I am asking for, I do understand that you're so very stupid. I don't use those words quite frequently on air, but I want you to get the gravity of what I am saying. They are calling Americans buffoons for believing that somehow if you have a lot more expenses, doctors have to do so much more, that system can somehow be more efficient than one pair. It's a mathematical impossibility that requires a convoluted form of thinking that's been implanted and indoctrinated onto the brains of many. And when we liberate, remember, people, slaves used to be in chains, They used to be in chains. But you know what? Capitalism, the plutocracy knows, right? They know one important fact. Slaves in chains are inefficient. If I have to enslave you with chains, that is so inefficient. Let me tell you how preachers work. When you go to a church first, they give you a lot of love. They teach you a whole lot of stuff. They don't want your money. In the beginning, they don't want any of that. What they want is your mind. Because when they have your mind, they have everything that you have. They have your money, they have your support, they have your loyalty, they have it all. That's how our system works. The only reason we got rid of slavery in this country, it wasn't that, oh, we got nice and the civil rights and all of that. Hell, after slavery, they still treated black folk and minorities like a whole bunch of animals or whatever. The only reason slavery was really ended, the Civil War ended slavery, all that good stuff are the good news. But if we really needed slaves to continue the economy, go scan Politics Done Right for Richard Wolff, Dr. Richard Wolff, the economist that I interviewed. Slavery is just another economic system. But we understand that slavery is expensive, right? If I own human beings as slaves, I have to feed them, I've got to clothe them, I have to insure them, I have to do all of that. In capitalism, if I hire a person and that person is no longer valid for me, if I can't use them, I lay them off. I have no more responsibility to that person. In capitalism, I don't. In slavery, I still have to pay to keep that person alive because that's my property. But in capitalism, I no longer need that employee. I lay that employee off. I don't have to give that employee health care, which is what has happened in our society. And what we drew with Dr. Richard Wolff is that similarity or where we went from slavery to this type of economy that was a lot more efficient than slavery. And guess what? So slavery is no longer a color thing, a black thing, a brown thing. It is now a mental thing. And when we learn that the masters of this economic system do not want people, hands, legs, bodies in chains, what they want is your mind in chains. And that is where your mind is. That is where the minds of a large percentage of Americans are right now, in slavery. Mental slavery. Folks, we're coming up at the end of the show. Please do remember, support our program. Go to our store, store.politicsdoneright.com, store.politicsdoneright.com. Buy our t-shirt, support our program. Go to paypal.me/politicsdoneright, support our program. Go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright, patreon.com/politicsdoneright. My name is Egberto Willies, and you know how this is Politics Done Right, and you know how I end this baby. I am what? What am I again? Out!